Hey everybody, this is the next video in the series being a Battering Ram, taking a look at different avenues that we as Christians can pursue this peace, at all costs, and what that has to do with the testimony of Jesus and the witness, apologetics and evangelism, and then also looking how are people who are engaged in that, how can we get other people involved, casting that vision, catching that vision and sharing it, right, and getting that to spread. This is my brother Tarrence, and so we're going to share a little bit about our story. This is unscripted. I lured him over here with a cup of coffee and a cigar, and so he doesn't, no questions or anything. We're just going to kind of dialogue and all that. So anyway, welcome, and glad that you're here, and do all the good stuff. Like, subscribe, share, all those things. So anyway, so we got to know each other. When did we meet? 92?
I don't know.
Something like that?
Something like that. I know I was about, I was probably 14, 15, something like that. We may have met prior to that, but I remember when you guys came in during the service, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if you came to any of the banquets or anything prior to that.
Probably not. I think that was the first time. We had met a few folks, but...
Or were the banquets after?
So we'll get a little story in history. So, what brought our congregation, this little house church, over to another congregation over in the LA area?
Yeah. So my experience as a teen and my experience with my teens is that of primarily people, but you don't really know people until you're an adult. You don't really meet people. Everything else is a blur, right? So I know you and I have been in the same room, like when I was 14 or 15, but I'd say we really kind of met much later than that, in my 20s. But knowing of your family over the years, I guess I knew your family more than I knew you. Yeah. And then we became friends. Yeah, so later. Yeah.
So just history for everybody is our church knew your congregation through, we both visited the same nursing home. Yeah. So, and then in around 1992, when the Rodney King pursuit and police brutality case and everything came to the national spotlight, and there was riots and unrest in LA, then basically my dad decided, well, we're going to go wage peace, and so we decided to pick up, and we knew of your congregation that's maybe 15-20 minutes more towards LA. We're in the south of LA, but a little bit more towards South Central, and then we said we at least know these guys, and so we packed up our group and we headed over there on a Sunday, and just to basically make the statement that we don't hate you, we don't want to be hated by you, and we think that Christ and the gospel, right, is this ultimate thing that breaks down the walls, and we don't kind of have to live the way the world does. And so the city is burning, and all of a sudden, literally, we walk in, probably 30 of us, primarily white and Hispanic, some Asian, into an all-black congregation of, I don't know, how many members does New Mount Calvary have?
About 5,000.
Yeah, okay, so, and we just walk in, and we were well received by the pastor and everybody there, and that was the beginning, of our relationship and the starting of this breaking down the walls.
Yeah, and just to point out about that day, the congregation's about 5,000 members, right? In any service, it's about maybe 1,000 people. But in that particular time, because of the riots, most of us weren't even there.
Okay.
Right? So it was maybe 300-400 people there that day.
And so congregations developed a relationship. My father and the pastor at that congregation, who have both passed on, developed a relationship, and then now that pastor's daughter, and then me, I've taken over in terms of pastoring in the congregations. But so you and I got to know one another. You and your wife were at a marriage conference, and my wife and I were at a marriage conference, right? And then we have spent years where we've spent time living together over several years, and so we are, I've said before, kind of in this series, that for us, a full gospel church is where the walls are broken down. And community and context, in terms of maybe a church is integrated on a Sunday, but not on sort of daily life. And so in your mind, what were some keys to the walls being broken down where you trust me to spend time with your boys and take them out and have that relationship, and vice versa, where I'm like, I would trust you with my life, and my little girls spend time with you, where we got to live together in the same house. And what, so you're saying, how does that happen? What does it have to do with the gospel? How do we get other people to do that same thing? Whatever it is, like from your end, what are some critical pieces in that? So
I think I guess somewhat chronologically, the first critical piece that I found was that our like-mindedness, that our conversations about how we should treat our children, how important education is, and how that's executed. I think our conversations about Sierra, I kind of adopted a teenager years ago, and the key to building some relationships are like usually these strange scenarios, right? And how you interact. I mean, I don't know how PC I'm supposed to be with this, but I've learned as a black male, I've learned to gauge my interactions or the character or how I should interact with white people. I have to be intentional about that. I don't know if I really have to, but that's just how we were taught, how we were growing up, right? And one of the things that really, I guess, drew me closer to you and let me know that you are a real person is that you didn't treat me like a black person, but you were not afraid to acknowledge that. Yeah. Right, and that's a tricky thing to try to do intentionally. So I was able to see that it's natural, and it really roots from you actually believing Jesus as opposed to just believing in Jesus. But so like our instance when I called you up there, the only reason I called you up there is because I knew you were in education, you worked in education, and this was my first time actually going to the school because of a problem I had with my teenager, right?
Yeah, that's right. We got to go on an adventure,
Yeah, and so, so just the fact that, we had trouble actually getting a hold of the principal, even though they called us about a very serious issue we were having with the teenager. Yeah. And then the lady telling you I can go wait at the KFC down the street. Yeah. Was
that's a true story. That did happen.
So that was like just experiences like that, and how you interacted, and like just very real instances. It's really how it should be. Yeah. You build your friends based on not what race they are, but just how things happen in scenarios like that. When you want to fight, you want to fuss, but there's somebody there that can help you laugh at the situation and just kind of step out of it. Yeah. Somebody that's there for you.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because one of the authors that I like, his name's Elton Trueblood. He says like the strength of a congregation is not what happens like in the gather worship times, but what happens between them. Oh yeah. And I think that it is often said, and I have no idea whether this is urban myth, but that people will say the most segregated hour in America is like 11 o'clock on Sundays. Definitely. Which is and I generally think that that's true, but that's tragic because it doesn't happen in the area of life. I mean, like I go to the gym here in Gardena. Gardena's a pretty mixed area, and there's everybody there. Everybody who looks everybody a different way, and I'm sure there's a bazillion different political opinions, and there's it's not like there's a section for these type of people or something, or you have to wait in line based upon anything. So it's very there's a lot of commitment, there's a lot of community, and there's a lot of like integration. Nobody's worried about anything there. I have never experienced that issue there. Maybe some people have, but I'm not even observing that. And then churches, I think even like you have to go beyond. Even if we could learn to integrate churches, right? To have where the walls are broken down, where we're not into everybody looking the same or having the same politics. But still, if we were to do that, on a Sunday morning, what is it like? For me, it's like the barbecues and the life together, and you and I have laughed together and cried together, and know each other's family. It's almost like it is based upon friendship, and I think that gets people's attention. One of the things I brought up is, two things that are the witness to the world. The greatest tools of evangelism or apologetics, right, is the love we have for one another, and the unity that we have, right? John chapter 15, John chapter 17, and of course Paul picked this up in Ephesians. But the idea that somebody's going to notice a white guy and a black guy arm in arm, spending time laughing, crying, knowing each other's family. They're going to see me, and I'm taking your boys out that look nothing like me, and my other godsons who are like half German, half Mexican, and spending time together. People are like, what's going on? Well, I think that becomes something that the church doesn't realize when it talks about doing evangelism or intentional evangelism. Like, they're doing that in a way that the attempts are made, but this is the thing that turns heads, right? Is, well, in our world, we're not supposed to get along. We're not supposed to be brothers, right? Yeah. And people notice that and have commented or said something, and we're like, well, it's no thing to us because that wall's not there, And that's kind of my whole idea is, how do we get other people to tear down these walls and to keep them down? Because if Jesus died to break down this dividing wall of hostility, then we've been real busy putting it back up in the church and out the church and in the world,
Yeah, I think it's my experience of the church as a teenager was it's a designated time where we play pretend, right? Where we spend time and we play pretend that we can cry, sing, and shout our problems away. And then once we leave, we come out of that pretend mode, and then we're for real, right? And one of the things that I've noticed about I say our family, but about you guys and your congregation prior to me joining was that there was no, okay, we go to service, we have lunch, and then all of a sudden then when you find out who they really are, right? And that was often my experience at church, like when you hang out with, it was always your church friends. You never refer to somebody as my friend. It was like, oh, that's my church friend, or that's my church brother. So that means when I'm around them, I act a certain way. And I felt freer to act the way I do on Sunday, on Wednesday, than I did with my other church brothers and sisters, and the other members of the congregation, because it was the very people that I went to church with every Sunday for 10 years of my life. On Wednesday, when they're drinking, when they're doing other things, and I'm like, not. It's like this weird, it's this awkwardness, like.
Yeah, the language, I think that's interesting, like, church friend, and we say, well, I've heard people say, like, well, this is my church family, and then this is my family, as if one is real family and one is church family, that we're using words like brother and sister, but we don't mean that, or, well, we mean that, but we don't really live that, and I think one of the ways for me that I don't just, like, want to just scream sometimes, but to have grace is, I think people are trying to communicate the gospel, but they're not trusting what the scripture says, and to say, well, I'm trying to do evangelism or to communicate the gospel, I'm just approaching it from a different vantage point, and the vantage point is, I think that people will see folks living a different way, and I think people see the hypocrisy in the church in this very issue of segregation or something like that, or denominational. We've done a lot denominational structures. Like, wait a minute, you guys can't get along. You're not real family. You don't. I'm not interested in that. But when the barriers are broken down, right? When we just said we're demolishing that. We're then that's gonna pique somebody's interest. My dad, I think, led the charge in terms of having this vision and then sharing with other people and getting it to spread, and then I remember just sitting down at a pizza joint, like having casual time, sitting down, white and black, and everybody else getting together and just having fun and laughing. Like, people didn't know what to do with that. Like, waiters and waitresses, like, they would be like, what is that about? Like, you might do that with maybe work friends or something like that, but a lot of times that sort of thing doesn't happen, sort of just in a casual friendship. Like, you can tell just people are just being together, right? It's not.
Which is always odd to me that people would notice something like that. And in LA, the perception is like, this is the West, everyone's like laid back, but still, like, we go out, we hang out. Like, there was a time where we were walking with our wives, and my wife was arm in arm with you, and your wife was arm in arm with me. We were just hanging
going
out.
To the movies,
and my wife got a call.
That's right.
From her mother, I can't quite remember.
Some
who
friend
it was.
of a friend.
Yeah.
Telephone.
It was like her friend of her mother's friend or some. It was. I remember it was somebody who was oddly removed from us, right? That we wouldn't have been able to pick out of a lineup, and they called somebody's mom, and she got a call. By the time we walked through the parking lot and got into the car, she got a phone call.
Yeah.
About her arm in arm and with
what was that all? What was that all about?
I'm like, what the hell? Yeah. But it's just always odd to me, and your dad used to say like it's like there's a difference between believing in Jesus and believing Jesus.
Yeah.
Like I think all of these issues, if you set out to attack, even like let's say racism, right? Your intention to fight racism is going to be a very hard, long struggle, right? But when you truly believe Jesus and what he says, and if you believe who family really is, and you proceed as such in your life, those issues will melt away, actually. Like, I don't remember us sitting down and say, okay, Jack, you're a white man, I'm a black man.
Right.
We're going to proceed to be friends.
Right.
Let's sit down and develop a 47-point plan on how to abolish the racial tension between us.
Yeah.
It just happened because I knew when the thoughts and when the whatever it is, the awkwardness could occur in my mind.
Yeah.
I knew, okay, well, this is a man who trusts and believes in Jesus just as I do.
Yeah.
And so those things aren't even an issue.
Right. We're not.
Of that.
Yeah. We're not. We're not pursuing a diversity quotient. Like, we don't have a consultant that says you need this many people of this. We're not looking for our congregation to reflect the demographic makeup of the United States or something like that. We're just pursuing the gospel. And some people have asked that, and I said, yeah, we're not out. Like, our congregation happens to be very diverse in a lot of different ways, socioeconomically and racially and gender and everything and backgrounds, but we never sought to do that, right? We never just decided, well, we want to recruit black people or Chinese people or Asian people or Mexican people. Like, that's a collateral benefit, or that's downstream from practicing the unity within the gospel and saying, well, if there is no Jew or Greek, slave or free, man or woman, like this, we are going to act that way. And what happens downstream of just leaning into that reality is that people get behind that vision. Like, I think I talked to my friend Ramon, it's like, how do you get people to cross denominational boundaries? Well, he says you cast a bigger vision, and the vision is helping kids, helping poor people and kids. And so you can circumvent, like, I mean, to me, it's so sad. Christians, well, I can't have Lord's Supper with you because you're a different denomination and your theology is different. But we can go down to Mexico and we can build houses together for poor people, or we can work in an orphanage. So why can we cross that boundary when it comes to work? But the idea we're talking about in terms of vision is like something bigger and greater is at stake. So it's like something more significant comes into mind when it comes to our differences in how we look in race, and that is, like you said, trusting Jesus at his word, breaking down the walls and saying, no, these things are something that is cast aside in this new kingdom, right? We're new nature, we're being born again, right? We're adopted in this new family. Okay, so those distinctions dissolve within this greater vision and reality of the kingdom, right? And so then I think that's something that you can then get people to get behind and to rally to and to practice and have a vision for, because, and if you're a Christian and you want to get the gospel shared, you have to trust Jesus. This is how we do it. The gospel is shared when these distinctions are gone and no longer a thing, and I don't think about you as my black friend or something, but I'm like, we have known each other for, well, we're dating ourselves for 25 years or whatever that is. Jeez. However, that it's just like, you're my friend Tarrence, it's like, and I think that is going to be something that we can offer as a way, example to other people. Say, look, it has been done, it can be done. We need to keep doing it. So that's. And
as we get older, I think it's going to be more it's going to be more noticeable, right? Yeah. Because young people are generally more integrated, but as you get older, it's rare that you see 50, 60.
Right.
year-old black man.
That's why I was with my dad was especially
exactly
noticed, right? These,
for
old white guys and old black guys having pizza, just yucking it up. That's good. Yeah, because you're going to grow apart or you're going to go close with your group. So, well, look, this is just a microcosm, for people that are kind of watching this, a microcosm of our life, sitting down, having a cigar, hanging out. This is not as if we're, I'm looking in the Rolodex, so to speak, to do this for this series or something, but we've been in the saddle together for a long time and trying to do church and break down the walls. And so I'm thankful, right, that it's not as if we're just having to manufacture this in order to do this, but hopefully, it'll help some people out navigate that. And the culture we live in is politically correct, and you just, there's some things that you can't do. And I think for us, we're not getting really into the irreverent or political incorrectness that we have when all the walls are broken down, but I think our relationship is scandalous to most people because of that. Right. Because people would just be aghast, and they have been if they don't get it. We're like, but we're great friends. It's those things have ceased to be things between us because we don't let them. So anyway, thanks for stopping by and having a cup of coffee, and we'll just keep
anytime. I still want my cigar.
That's right. And we'll do cigars after this. So okay,
for sure. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. Appreciate it.